All right, everybody, welcome to Beers and Branding at Anthem Brewing.
Woo! Ow, ow, ow.
All right, this is our 5th event. This is our 2nd time here in the tap room. We're super appreciative of Anthem Brewing. So give it up again for Anthem.
Woo!
We have food tonight from The Wedge, provided by Oklahoma Employees Credit Union, OECU. Give it up for them.
Thank you. Happy
So,
to help.
we're going to spend the next 55 minutes outside of Thunder, because it's storming outside, talking about business development, marketing, audience, etc. We're here to answer your questions. We're not here to lecture you. If we wanted to lecture you, we'd be in suits and ties in some conference center. But we're in a tap room. We're drinking beer. The collar's off, so let's have a good time and communicate with each other. Good? All right, here we go. Idea number 1, and I'm going to toss this to each of my cohorts here right after I introduce them. On my right, your left, Heather Parsons, owner of the Cargo Room.
Hello. Woo! Hi, everyone.
Shop Cargo Room on Instagram, right?
Yes.
And on my left, your right, Lori Ford from Oklahoma Employees Credit Union.
Woo! Thank you.
There you go. My name is Kyle Golding. I am the CEO of the Golding Group, and I'm your host tonight.
Woo! Ow!
And I always say I'm going to sit down and not talk with my hands, and here I am standing and talking with my hands, so I'm sorry about that.
That's my beer stand.
Go ahead. Use it as your beer stand. So, first concept I'm going to start discussing. I'm going to toss it to each of these girls, and as anyone has an idea or a thought or a question about it, speak up and we'll answer your question. So, ladies, the misconception sometimes with people who run business or do marketing for business is that marketing and advertising are the same thing, and that marketing is a one-way conversation, which is actually advertising. I'm looking at you, Heather, so let's start with you.
Okay.
Marketing is a two-way conversation where we give information and we receive information, which makes our next round of marketing better. So, speak to that as your experience as owning a business and having to market that business and develop an audience. Give us a couple minutes on that. If you agree, disagree, and what's your thought process?
Well, I was actually, when Kyle kind of told me a little bit what we were going to start off talking about, I was really thankful because I just finished a book actually called The Thank You Society from Gary Vee. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gary Vee. He's a great kind of business guru. So I was just reading this book, The Thank You Society, who is pretty much about that, developing conversations with your customers, developing relationships with your customers, and not just pushing your information onto them. So,
You worked hard.
thank you. So my dress doesn't
Because
fly
we had a little, the fans are getting Heather's dress going.
That's a new one. Okay.
You're a gentleman, Victor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was like holding it in.
Who knew? This is what happens when you do live events, people.
That's right. That's called engagement.
This
There
is
we
live.
go.
Who knew?
That's
Who knew?
right.
Not on the finger,
Okay.
marketing-wise.
Okay, Heather, back
So
to you.
one of the concepts that Gary Vee talked about was that you cannot view your customers as just walking wallets. That's kind of the word that he used to describe it. And that's, I think, a proper term to use because a lot of businesses will just see their customers as, hey, this is money that can come to me. Whereas we need to be viewing our customers as somebody that you can build a relationship with. That's kind of where I've focused my business all about is how can I build relationships with these people? How do I get to know these people? I want to know what they want to see. So my business is pretty much centered around these relationships that I have with them. And my goal is to never view them as a walking wallet. I want to have that communication. It's always, like Kyle said, it's a two-way street. So, yeah.
The key word is relationships.
Yes.
Absolutely. Lori, in your role at OECU and OECU's overall thought process for attracting audience and retaining the customers that they have, talk about the two-way conversation, the relationship.
You bet. We do not like to just be a billboard. We want to be able to see what people need, see what the community is feeling and what type of responses are there. You know, whenever we post something or we have something, you know, on social media, or if there's, you know, maybe something that even comes back in an email, I mean, it can be in many different avenues, then we want to be able to respond to it personally because we want that person to know that, hey, we care. You know, it's not just, just us going out and saying, hey, we've got this special right now, and just make it a billboard type of Facebook post. I mean, we go out there and say, all right, so what are your plans this weekend? Tell us what type of outdoor patios are awesome in Oklahoma City. You know, we want to be able to try to engage a conversation and to keep it going. And, you know, in that run, we also try to support our fellow business people, you know, that are in the community, and, you know, try to shed some light on some restaurants that are there, and just be able to pass the baton, really, you know, so that way someone else will talk about it and someone else engages.
Too many people use the terms marketing and advertising interchangeably. They're completely different concepts. Marketing is the work that you do before you get to advertising. Marketing is the understanding your audience, understanding your position in the industry, your competition, etc., finding a differentiation, what sets you apart, what's unique about you, how you do business, and then you take that story and put it out in the world, and those avenues that are one way, print, TV, radio, etc., those are advertising. But your advertising still has the potential to have a two-way conversation and inform you of your marketing, because what works and what doesn't work is the second part of the conversation. So if you're putting advertising out, no matter what, for traditional advertising, digital, experiential, whatever it is, if you're doing these activities and it doesn't work, and I don't mean the first time you do it, but the 12th time or the 15th time or the 100th time you do it, when it stops working, that is information coming back to you that you're doing something wrong or you need to make a change. Taking that information back in and internally and making your adjustments in how you do business, that's marketing. So marketing is a two-way conversation. Business advertising is a one-way conversation. I see lots of heads bobbing, so we're all agreeing on that, yes? So does anyone have any questions about how they could do a better job at having a two-way conversation with their audience as opposed to just simply always having a one-way conversation?
I have something to kind of add about that. So I don't really do a lot of the traditional advertising. I utilize a lot of social media, and so when I'm putting something out on social media, I'm almost putting it in words that I'm like talking to a friend. So I'm just putting it out to the world, like, hey, this is what's going on in my life today. I'm very transparent about, you know, I had a bad day, or I'm really busy this day, or today's been a great day. So it's almost like I'm holding a conversation with my best friend. And so anytime I make it a point that anytime somebody tries to communicate via social media, that I need to respond to that person. I see a lot of companies fail in that aspect where people are commenting on different posts and they're just going unread or neglected, and I think that's the biggest fail, because a company could easily just start that conversation right there, is when that person is engaging with them and you just need to engage back. So I make it a point to try to respond to every single thing on all social media platforms.
The great advantage of digital channels, social media, websites, email, etc., is the ability for us to communicate to a one-on-one. Where mass marketing has a wider reach but has a less personalization and a less likelihood of a two-way conversation. So that's the trade-off. Heather runs a small business. It's in the back of a trailer. It's very small. She drives it around
84
town.
square feet, yes, very small.
Lori works for a credit union. She competes with banks, large financial institutions. You compete with department stores, malls, etc.
And Amazon.
Amazon, yes. Right? But your personal touch, your relationship building is how you actually compete and win against those larger competitors, right?
Yes, because if people feel like they know you, they feel like they're a part of, you know, we're part of each other's lives. They're going to come to me when they're looking for something. And that's something that makes me feel really special too. When someone's coming to me for a special occasion, it's kind of like an honor, like, oh, you're trusting me with your special day. And so that's, you know, kind of the reward that I get from this. So
the benefit of building relationships is a small business can compete with behemoth businesses, because behemoth businesses aren't creating relationships. They aren't answering every single DM or every single comment on social media. So as small business owners and managers, we really have to focus on relationship building, because that's our advantage versus the disadvantage of large national box and retail chains. So focus on relationship building and how it relates to your business, because you build relationships differently than I do with my B2B clients, and the way that Lori attracts potential clients to the credit union, because it's authentic relationship building and not simply trying to get everyone to like you, right?
Yes.
So same question, Lori, what's your approach to drawing people to the credit union and telling the story of what's different about not only credit unions in general, but your approach at OECU?
Well, one thing that really sets us apart is that we as a credit union have members. We don't have customers, we have members. So it's a we mentality. And it's really interesting. When I first started working for OECU, I was just doing part-time social media, and I was doing a little bit of event planning and being a spokesperson for Keep It Local, Oklahoma. And, you know, Scott Bell asked me to help out and do some social media. So I did. And it really took a long time for me to get that idea of it's a we. Whenever something is posted, it's we are happy to help. We do this, you know, and so that we really does make a purpose in the long run, because a bank is not going to say we where it really includes that customer as much. You know, it's more where it's they, and I don't know. It encompasses that reader, because we hope that, of course, there are a lot of people who follow us that are not exactly members of OECU, but knowing that probably most of our followers are probably members, you know. So we like to be able to encompass that so that we can actually say we care about our members. Because in the beginning, OECU was formed by employees of ODOT. And whenever they got together, they decided, okay, these loan rates are too high. We're going to start this credit union. We are going to start this for our good effort, you know, so that it's our benefit. So we like to carry that onwards. So it's not just a business and customer type of relationship. It's much more encompassing than that.
So the second half of building a relationship with your potential audience, and it has to be a really highly focused potential audience, right? What did we say last week? Everyone's not your customer. You got to focus. But building relationships with your highly likely potential clients in an authentic way, telling your story, communicating with them in a two-way conversation, allows you to gain the most valuable tool any business can have. Are you ready for this? The unsolicited endorsement.
Word of mouth.
I bank at OECU. I buy from the cargo room. I hired the Golding Group. Something like this, where someone just tells someone, you're starting a business, you need to call this guy. You need a bank account, you need to call this person. You need a website, you need to call James. That tool is more powerful than a Super Bowl ad for a small business. It really is. When you think about the fact that who you've drawn to you and why they're attracted to you and why they've become a brand ambassador, and it's an unsolicited, you didn't pay them to do it, you didn't ask them to do it. It's not because they're your best friend or because you bought them a beer, maybe, but because you had a relationship with them that was authentic, you treated them well, your business transaction was what they expected it to be because you attracted them in the right way. You carried through with the business transaction, you're doing authentic business with them, authentic business storytelling, and now they're out in the world as a brand evangelist. The most powerful marketing tool you potentially can have, no matter what your business is. So think about relationship building that builds brand evangelist is essentially what any focus should be when you're talking about a two-way conversation, relationship building, in your marketing and audience development.
I kind of feel, versus a traditional advertising medium, when it's just thrown at you, buy this, but then your best friend comes up and says, hey, I have this experience with this company, I bought from this company, they're great. Who are you going to believe more? This company who's just throwing money out, or your best friend who has that experience, that firsthand experience, like, look, I bought from this person, it was great. And so that's where I think that comes from. That word of mouth is very powerful. It's such a powerful tool.
Before mass marketing, word of mouth was everything, right?
Yeah.
If you needed to know something in 1922, you ask your neighbor where to buy a bale of hay, or where to buy a horse, or to where to get a gallon of gas. because your neighbor would set you straight, right? Because if they didn't, you would go back to them and go, why are you a jerk? Creating brand evangelists that are willing to stick their neck out on the line and say, you need to hire this guy, you need to go to this business here, allows you to have the person who referred you, you can go back to him and go, you steered me wrong. No one wants to be that person. So businesses that create genuine relationships actually create new marketing tools that go forward and attract new business back to you. Right. Anything you want to add to that, Lori?
Go ahead.
Okay. I try not to talk too much because I love to talk, as you can tell, right? So I touched on it a little bit. The last week we did a smaller beers and branding. This was the number one topic everyone talked about. We talked about it on social media afterwards, so I'm going to loop back to it. Everyone is not your customer. You're not going to attract everyone in the world. 100% of the population isn't buying your thing. And I don't care who you are. Coca-Cola, Budweiser, Apple, Nike. 100% of the population is not their client. 80% of the population is not your client. If you're a small business, it's probably less than 1% of the population of the city you're in. If you get out of a mentality of I have to have everyone in the world know about me, like me, and want to do business with me, because you'll never say anything that might set someone in the wrong way, or you might say too much, which then they don't know what it is the heck you do. But instead you get highly focused on specifically what you do and how you do it, which is what sets you apart from everyone else. And then allow anyone who says, that's not what I like the way these guys do it. Being comfortable with saying, cool, go do business over there. We're fine because we're going to do business the way we do business. Is the number one mistake that business owners make is they try to make everyone love them. And everyone is their client. That's the first failing you can have. You have to let business that's not going to repeat or not engage with you the way you want to engage or appreciate the way you do business go away straight off the bat. The audience that comes to you because you're telling your story authentically, because you're communicating and relating to them, they come to you because a brand evangelist has told them they need to. If they've come to you and they actually feel like they know you and understand you and still want to do business with you, the likelihood that you retain them as a client goes way up. And the cost of attracting them and keeping them goes way down. The two ways you make profit is you have more people coming in the door and you become more efficient with every person that comes through the door. Every dollar that comes across your plate, the more of it you keep because you're not spending it on things that aren't working, makes you more profit. So those two concepts together is why you have to be highly focused on your customer. Never, ever having the idea that I need everyone to like what it is we do.
And is it the 80-20 or 20-80? I always get it backwards.
It's 80-20.
80-20, the 80-20 rule.
Right.
Yeah.
80-20 rule. If you break down, if you have a small business in Oklahoma City, you might have 50, 75, 300, 500 clients or customers. There's 1.3 million people that live in Oklahoma City. Think about the percentage of 300 people versus 1.3 million. So you don't need everyone in Oklahoma City to know about and like your business or nonprofit or cause. You just need the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3% that wants to do business with you, that needs your product or service, is interested in supporting your cause, wants to join up for your nonprofit, wants to drink your beer, needs a checking account, needs a loan, needs a mortgage, needs to shop for clothes. You only sell women's clothes too, right?
I do.
So you got to cut that number in half.
Sunglasses.
Yeah.
Sunglasses.
Although, some guys shop for ladies.
That's right.
That's right.
So again, focus on who your client is, and the second half of that equation is letting anyone who wants to do business outside of the scope of the way you do business go. The idea that if I get them one time, it'll be fine, or I'll make a little money and it'll be okay, that's chasing dollars. Chasing dollars make you inefficient. So what we say, more people and efficiency is how you make profit. If you're not making profit, your business is going out of business. That's just how it is. So focus on your audience, highly focus. Don't worry about people who aren't going to be attracted to you the way you do business, and then communicate that authentically. And you should develop a core audience that not only sticks with you and are repeat business, but are actually out there actively trying to attract business to you.
It's about, nurturing those those people that are your customers and not trying to go after everybody that's out of that realm. So it's about nurturing those people that are your customers, that are your advocates. So yes.
Very.
Yeah.
So the second half of this big equation that I had in my head today.
As you're driving along,
I was driving along. I was thinking about this. So we've talked about who we are and who our audience is and how to attract them. Before we even begin attracting audience, when you run a business, when you start a business, start a nonprofit, and you're trying to accomplish something, create an event like this, you're trying to figure out who you're attracting and why, and who you are and what you have to offer. A concept that you have to put together that seems like it's opposites, but I'll explain why it really works in concert, is people like to do businesses that meet expectations, but constantly want to be surprised and be given new options. Now, I know that sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. How are you consistent and constant, but new at the same time?
But that customer wants to think it's their idea.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I discovered this awesome Kyle Golding. I discovered this amazing opportunity. If you go out and say, hey, here's this, that, and that. I mean, it's the wording of that offer can really make it or break it. I mean, if you word things where it's like, all right, 95% of Oklahoma City has already discovered us, why haven't you? I mean, they're going to think, what? Whereas if you sound like it's rarity, you've struck gold. Oh my gosh, there's only 2 offers left. I've got to grab it now. It makes a world of difference. That discovery process is huge because it's rewarding.
We started off talking about a two-way conversation. So if you're practicing your business in a consistent manner, delivering as you've created expectations, your audience is still telling you what they like and what they don't like. If you're a restaurant with 20 items on the menu, something is number 20. Something is the least bought item. There's the least bought dress or style or type of accessory, right?
Yes.
There's always something at the bottom that could be cut. There's always something at the top that you have to stick to. So listening to your audience in a two-way conversation allows you to look at what's working, what's selling, what's most popular, and then what's not, and make a business decision to cut the bottom things. But you can't just willy-nilly cut them or replace them with something exactly the same or something you just made up in your head. That decision-making has to be based on what?
Yeah, so actually I just had this experience yesterday. So one of the things that I have to do for my business is go to market and purchase items for my business. And so being at market, I see a lot of things. It's very tempting. It's, I like this, I like this, I like this. Like, I would love to have this. But that's not how I have to go in business-minded thinking my customers are what's shaping my business. And it's not about me and what I like and putting those things into my business. It's about, is this something that my customers are going to like? I have to look at it from their perspective and kind of take myself out of the equation for a little bit. And so it is hard, in some aspects because, of course, it's very tempting to go in and just want to buy everything that you like, but that's not how a business should be structured. You need to look at it from a business mindset.
So Heather, you get to actually have conversations with your clients every single day.
As I'm at market, too.
Right?
Yeah,
When they're in the truck, when they're calling you, when they're coming into the showroom, you're having those conversations, right? You have the luxury of getting to meet your audience and even read it off their face, what they're telling you and then what their body
But that's the fun part. Even at market, I can go in and use social media at that point and say, hey, is this something that you guys are interested in? Do you like this? So I could use that to gauge whether or not this is something I should be pulling into my product categories. So.
Well,
But Laura, you don't have the luxury of personally looking at everyone in the face as they come in and have conversations with your staff. Because you're a large organization.
I'm going to tag on her for just a second because I'm a girl and because I've been to her truck, all right, her trailer, and I've been to Cargo and I'm a customer. And so for me, Amy is not just providing a cute dress. She's not providing cute sunglasses or earrings. She's providing her stylist expertise.
Yes.
And so me, whenever I come out of the dressing room, I'm like, oh gosh, or it's not like a dressing, it's like this curtain that pulls back, so, And so I'm like, oh, I don't know, what do you think? She's like, oh my gosh, that makes you look fabulous, or that color is amazing with your eyes. Whenever I don't see that, and I'm hearing this, then of course that's going to increase sales, so it's so happy. But okay, to my question, no, we don't really see that from that vantage point. We see it in the long run in maybe a Google type of testimony that says, hey, you just have this great Google review and it's 5 points. And we're like, wow, who was it? We immediately want to know, who was it? Where were they? What'd they buy? So we go and research and we find out who it is. And we're like, oh my gosh, they said, oh, Gabby at the Capital Branch was amazing. She helped us with our car loan and then helped us refinance other things. So, many times we see it after the fact. And, sometimes whenever you're talking to a customer one-on-one, you can tell when there's that symbiosis, right? You can tell when that conversation is going and jiving and you feel like it's a good thing, but in the long run, sometimes you don't really know how far that really captured, how good your catch was from that batch of minnows. So, for it to come up, there's a rainbow! And there's a squirrel.
Someone get you a picture of the rainbow.
So, for us, we love to hear that type of response. We love to hear different types of reviews and testimonies and things that come back. I mean, sure, there's times whenever it will occur right then, whenever it's at point of sale and, oh, you've been so helpful and, oh my goodness, you made me feel like I wasn't scum whenever I told you I'm $15,000 in debt. Finances are such a touchy subject. Nobody really wants to come on and say, hey, number one, I don't really know what I'm doing. Honestly, everyone wants to be an expert, but I'm sorry, we're not. So OECU tries to put it just honestly, says, hey, we want to help. If you're in debt, if you've gone bankrupt, if you're upside down in your loan, if you're trying to refinance and you're struggling, we want to help you. We're not going to put cash judgment upon you, not unless you give us a 1-star Google rating, right?
You got to be a good brand ambassador.
Yeah. So we want to help. So part of that is that judgment type of thing.
So what all of us in this room can take from this is you have human interaction. You have what people tell you, but you also have digital tools. Mm-hmm. You have your online reviews. You have your metrics. You have your digital channels that give you information. You can't only rely on your interpersonal communication because these people know you, they see you, they're looking you in the face and they don't want to tell you, this sucks. Because they like you. And you have these other opposite end, which is they're anonymous online, or at least they're never going to be talked to you in a room together, so they tell you whatever they want. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. As business owners, as marketing people, as people who are trying to help an organization grow, our job is to pay attention to both sides and use our logical brain to kind of wade through the highs and the lows and find some trends, find some things that correlate and then also relate back to us and our approach to doing business. And everyone's approach is different. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses are different. So I can't tell you, always look for this and never worry about this. But if people are always talking about speed of delivery or cost or something like that, and you know your cost is high, you know you're getting beat on that, but that's okay because you have better customer service, that's a trade-off, then you can take that trend and put it to the side. But if your focus is customer service and it's trending in the wrong direction, both from your digital standpoint and from your interpersonal standpoint, now you know you have a problem that you have to address, because if you're putting out your marketing and advertising, your outward communication that is telling people, we're great at this is what we do, this is our focus, and then you're failing at that, you're going to actually drive away everyone that you potentially were getting to pay attention to you, because you were just spinning them on advertising and not actually having a two-way conversation about what you authentically do. So, use your tools, digital tools, use your interpersonal tools, use your trends and your data analysis, but use your logical brain and stay focused on what it is you do the way you do it. If you hear over and over that your price is higher than your competitors, but your item is handmade or your customer service is above and beyond, or you have more locations and all that works out to higher price, you have to, as an organization, tell yourself, okay, I guarantee you No one at Apple cares that people say their stuff is expensive. They do not care. They do not care that their customer service is not great. If you try to tell an Apple enthusiast that your PC is faster than their Mac, you'll get socked in the eye.
By him.
By me, right. So when you stick to what you do and how you do it, you let those other things happen the way they're going to happen, not focusing effort or economics, most definitely not economics. You can stay focused on what you do and you become more effective and efficient. You drag people to you that say, I know you're expensive, and I know the people at the Genius Bar are a bunch of jerks, but man, this computer works exactly the way I want it to, and it's very stable, and I very much like it. So that's what you have to do, is find that position where you're at. It has to be authentic, so you can't create it. You have to own it from the start. Whatever idea sparked your business, it has to come from that. You can't start a business and go, hey, you know what would be awesome if I were just like Apple but cheaper? Because now you're doing something that's inauthentic and it's not coming from a place that you can actually achieve. You tell people you're as good as Apple, but you're cheaper. They experience you, they might believe it, they might not. The 1% that believes it and then they buy it, and it is cheaper, but it's not better, they're never coming back. And they're now going to go out and tell people not to do business with you, which is the exact opposite of what we talked earlier about creating brand ambassadors. Good? I feel like I just talked a whole lot.
It was a long one. It's okay.
It is.
You're good.
So, I like to stop along the way and ask if anyone's got questions. Thank you. Yell at me, I'll try.
Repeat it. Repeat her question.
The question is, do any of us on the panel, and I'll ask this to you when we get done, ask our clients for testimonials, and then how do we use them?
I don't personally use a lot of testimonials on my site. I have worked with other businesses that do utilize testimonials. And still, I feel like those need to come from an authentic place too. So who you're working with needs to have an authentic feel. I've wrote testimonials for people that I believe in. So that is just kind of gaining testimonies from people that you've worked with personally one-on-one. It just needs to have that authentic feel. So that's kind of, I don't personally do a lot with my clothing business, but I do, have a lot of reviews that come in on Yelp or Facebook or stuff like that. And so again, I use that a point to just respond to them personally to build that connection that way. So,
Lori?
We do, but we don't just ask everybody. But whenever someone has come to me and said, oh my gosh, you're just amazing. Sarah helped me at the Coil Springs branch, and I refinanced my car, and then we refinanced my husband's car, and where the conversation goes on, I said, wow, that's an awesome testimonial. Would you mind sharing that on Facebook or Google so that others will hear? And if they don't want to, my gosh, I'm not twisting their arm. I'm just asking them to make it a public type of share. Because, if they're so excited and so happy, then don't you think there's more value in that type of review and that type of comment than if I just go and ask Kyle, hey, you've never done business with us, but will you go and give a review for us?
Don't do that.
Because
Don't do that.
there's a lot of reviews. Think of Amazon, right? How Amazon, you think, oh, I'm going to go and buy this product, and you go look at the reviews and how so many of them are fake. We don't want to portray that image at all. We want to make sure that our testimonies and our reviews are solid, and we love it when there's particular specifics. Like if someone says, oh, I was in debt and I really was able to climb out of that because of the Dave Ramsey financial peace seminars that you give. It's like, okay, when there's
which is very specific and very
It is that's so much deeper than, wow, you're awesome. Wow, you're great. Oh, thanks for your awesome help, refinancing my house, or, something like that. We want to really be able to see that, when there's specifics, and it sounds like it really is a transaction that was not, or a review that wasn't fished for. We want to keep it where we're very transparent.
We actually use we use testimonials a lot in a very different way. So I have a B2B consulting business. I work with other business owners. The first thing that we did when we first started was we asked everyone for a testimonial, and we videotaped them. I have a whole page of video testimonials on our website from when we launched our company with our initial clients. So we were very aggressive about it at the time. As things got going and we got very busy, we got less aggressive about it. But the beauty of what I do, one of the luxuries I have is I document a lot of things with photo and video for social media, and I have video people. I got a whole video crew that I work with on a daily basis. So I document a lot of our process, a lot of meetings, a lot of things like this, a lot of behind the scenes. And often behind the scenes, you will get someone who will look in that camera and say, "This is awesome. I'm having a great time. This is wonderful." And so it's a testimonial of sorts. It's not something that we take a group together and go look at all our testimonials. But when it happens, by all means, we take advantage of it. We recirculate that video over and over again. We use the social media. The second half of it is the recirculation of content on social media. So just because you publish one time, I went and had a great experience, or I bought something and it was wonderful. You could post that quote today, next week, 3 months from now, at Christmas, New Year's Eve, etc., etc. You don't have to use a piece of content one time. So testimonials are very powerful tools. They're great tools, but you don't have to put it out one time. You don't even have to put it out in the same format over and over. One of the side businesses, a startup I just launched, we had a testimonial from a very high-level executive in this industry, and it was 3 paragraphs. I'm doing this because on the website it's 3 paragraphs. On the website, we have the entire testimonial because he's a very influential individual. But we pull quotes out of it and circulate that on social media. So that one quote I've used in 15 different variations. I take the quote and I use the text on Twitter. I take a screen capture of the quote and I take that picture and I use it on Instagram, etc., etc. If I'm doing something that's audio-based, I may say, well, that one time this person said this and we really appreciated that. So taking your content and reusing it over and over again is another extremely powerful tool for you. And testimonials, brand endorsements, etc. are content that you can use. You can screen cap your Yelp reviews, your Google reviews. Someone says something nice on Facebook. Even if someone FaceTimes you and says, "You guys are awesome," you can screen cap that and use it as content. And again, because they offered that to you and you didn't ask them to, and it's a human being that I could go find. That's the other thing too about being inauthentic, is if I did a testimonial for OECU and said they're the best credit union ever, and then I'm out here tonight, we're hanging out, and they go, "Well, you're a member of OECU," and I go, "Oh, I actually don't bank there." Just killed the whole thing, right? I went from a brand ambassador to a brand killer. So it has to be authentic and someone who's actually done business with you. And if they're real human beings, they're going to talk to other real human beings, and it gets back into that brand ambassador situation for you, which is exactly what you want. Did that help? Okay. How many of you out there right now are using testimonials for your business? Toby, James, right? James, people talking about their experience with your web design? It's great synergy for them, right? And you only get to that attitude of helping each other out if you have a relationship, and it's not, I paid you X number of dollars, I want my website, deliver it and move on. But you created a relationship, right? That's the essence, the offshoot of relationship building are testimonials and then brand ambassadors. Toby, you're using testimonials? True. So I'm going to flip the script now. How many of you have been influenced by seeing a testimonial, whether it was a website, social media, and an email? Right? Is that why you asked the question? Because you've been influenced in the past, right? So think about this. This will be my next point. I'll lead to it. We walked right into it perfectly. Often, a lot of times people get, they especially social media and digital channels, they are like, oh, it's trendy, it's the new thing, it's never going to be blah, 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 blah. And I ask them, have you ever been influenced to buy something because you saw something on social media or got an email for it? And of course, I see everyone's head, right? Well, yes, I have. So if you were influenced by a testimonial or by social media presence or by a digital message, why would you ignore that for your business? Right? It's very logical, right? But it's sometimes people don't connect the dots. If something influences you to go out and do something, you're a regular human being, then other regular human beings could just as easily be influenced through the same channels, the same tactics that they use to get in front of you. So when you are learning how to start a business, how to run a business, how to be a better marketer, how to be better at the industry you work in, because you haven't been in financial services your whole life, been for 5 years, right? As you try to develop your skills and bring those to your business, there's two ways to learn that you can do simultaneously. It's what we're doing now, is someone telling you what their expertise is. But the second part of the equation, and this is more important than the expert standing up here speaking to you, is how did they get in front of you to begin with? How did they influence you to pay attention to them? What made you want to read Gary Vee's book? What made you want to come to Beers and Branding tonight? What made you understand the first time that Anthem was a local brewery that made craft beer? What happened in your brain to make that connection? And if you go and look at the person influenced you, how are they doing it? It's not what Gary Vee says, it's what he does. It's his repetition, it's the channels he uses, it's the formats he uses, it's the length of the formatting, it's authentic to him versus something that is created or brand centric. So listen to what experts tell you, but watch what they do more importantly. Watch how they deliver it to you and how they got in front of you to begin with. If you break that down, if you back that up and figure out how they got in front of you like that, you could figure out how you can get in front of the people who make decisions about doing business with your business. I see lots of head shaking, so I think that worked, right? Good? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, James. Yes. Okay. So James's question was, how do you balance your client? And it's a trick because you want to keep your client happy, but you want to steer them in the right way. Between focus, which is sticking specifically to what they do, and the word you used was fluidity, right? Being open to new ideas. Would that be accurate? So, and we touched on earlier, you have to be consistent in delivery, but you have to be always doing new things, right? For me, and I'll let the girls answer this as well, but for me, I go back to that logic question, which is, why do you want to do this when either A, no one else is doing this, or other people are doing something else that works better? So it's hard to argue with facts. It's hard to argue with things that are working. And sometimes people say, oh, I want this because my competitor has it, right? Isn't always the answer, because your competitor might be right and they might be wrong. The question is, what are other people doing in your industry that's effectively drawing audience, right? If you can get the conversation away from their idea and to best practices and what's working and what's on trend and what other people are doing with great success, the more likely you can get them in that direction. The more that they think about their own ego and about having an idea, that they want their idea because they're the client and the client's always right, well, guess what? The client is not always right. So we talked about earlier, right? There's people you should do business with and all these other people you should not do business with. If you have a client that insists that their ideas are always right and your ideas aren't, then you shouldn't do business with them because they're not actually utilizing your expertise. And at the end of the day, no matter how much money you make, they're going to come back and go, you suck, it didn't work. When it was their ideas, it was why it didn't work. So pushing them in the right way, aggressively, not too aggressively, you got to figure out the personality, and getting it off egos and my idea, your idea, and more on best practices and logic and things you can write down.
Don't forget about A and B testing, all right? Because there's so much value. Send half of the people to this answer that's very fluid, very open, very wide funnel. And whereas the B test is very succinct, very narrow crowd, and then gauge that. I mean, hey, oh my gosh, maybe you were wrong, but maybe the client is wrong. But sometimes the results need to speak. The data speaks for itself. And so sometimes we don't know enough about our client that, hey, maybe, oh my gosh, they were right about that after all. But in other realms, whenever you can say something, hey, let's just try this A and B test and let's see where it goes, even though you know the answer or you think that you do, and that then you try that. And so the B test, the B results are just like what you thought they'd be, but you just kind of need that, you know? Sometimes it's really hard to tell the clients what's going to work, you know, because honestly, it's reading a crystal ball. So some people believe that fortune teller and they want to hear more and more. Other people are like, what are you talking about? That's not how my business runs. I would never do that. My history shows blah, 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 right? I think we've all been there. So whenever you can show them this B and where maybe it's unexpected, but wow, you hit on a dynamic that they've never thought of before. Sometimes those results speak. Some people respond better to data like that.
It's true.
Well, just for me, I don't work with clients like you would on that same kind of playing field, but for me, it's just staying true to my brand identity. I can look out, of course, I have a lot of competitors in my industry, and they may be doing different things and buying certain items, but it's still, I have to stay true to what my brand is and what I've created, and not stray from that, because I think that's what keeps my customers intact, and being aligned with my customers really is just staying true to my own brand identity. So,
did that help, James? That was a good question. It's the magic of what we all do if we have to deal with clients. Retail, food service, some of these things, even some of your hard products, checking account is what it is, right? Some of these things they're less negotiable, so it's less fluid.
Service.
When you're dealing with client services, it can become extremely fluid. Again, for me, I'll just recap with this. Anytime I could take their ego and mine, and I have one too. If I could take the egos out of the equation and go back to A/B testing, data, best practices, great examples, and doing little bits here and there, and following the trend, following the path, and getting that client to forget at all what their original idea was, so they get their ego off of it, the better conversation I have. At the end of the day, people will get over their ego bruise real quick if their sales go up, right? Bank account trumps your personal feelings, where it should. And if you're dealing with someone who'd rather be right than rich, get the hell out of there, right? Any other questions or things that we can answer for you this evening? Yes, dear. Okay, you say, how do you turn away clients for growth reasons? Is it because you're not big enough for them yet, or they're too small for you? So someone comes to you and they say, we want to do business with you, but we need this kind of scale, and you can only do this kind of scale. Pure, unadulterated honesty. You just have to tell them the absolute truth. I want to, I can't. It's not good for you, and it's not good for me. Please come back to me when I get to that scale, but I just can't. And then the second half is, but I will do my best to find you someone that can.
Yeah.
Not just turn them back out on the street, but if the worst thing you could do is if someone asks you to do a project like this and you know for a fact you cannot handle it, to take it on and make it up as you go, you'll destroy the relationship you have. You'll never get another shot at that, and then you'll end up wasting a lot of time that you can't recoup in actual legitimate business branding. So thank you for being honest with, there are clients I'm not ready for, because that's very good. That's a mistake people make is, I've been in business 3 days. I'm ready to take on a multi-billion-dollar corporation. No, you're not. I've been in business 5 years. There's a lot of stuff I'm not ready to take on. So recognize it, and then having a very open, honest, frank conversation, and then be willing to be part of the process to help them get where they need to be, because that keeps you involved and engaged. And when that works out, or maybe there's a chunk of that can be spun off, it can most likely come back to you and you'll be ready for it. But don't ruin their scenario, and definitely don't put yourself behind the 8 ball by trying to take on something you're not ready for. If you think you want to take a chunk of it and bring it, and the rest of it goes somewhere else, by being part of that process of getting them to who can handle it, you have the likelihood of trying to keep on the chunk that you want to hold of, or coming back to you later. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you responded perfectly. Just kind of being almost that facilitator, just staying a part of that process through the whole way. Like he said, just don't say, I can't handle this and leave him be. I mean, you still want to be a part of this process, maintain that relationship through that aspect. So.
Or?
I think it helps if you set up your boundaries prior to that rejection, so that way when you say, hey, my perfect client is this, and here's what I'm shopping for in a client before, and like, of course, and you've done your due diligence, you've already researched them, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm not what they're looking for. I can't handle their volume, I can't handle this subject, whatever it is, that if you already know upon that meeting that that's not your client and that you've got to say no, then say that up front to them, because they'll respect you more if you say that in that opening, to say, hey, I'm going to let you know, I'm really looking for this kind of business, this type of clientele. Maybe you're that person. And, in all realms, be positive and, and to be hopeful. Maybe they've got this side gig. It isn't what you thought. Maybe it's a new business and you are that client, right? Or that person. So, if you're up front and you create your boundaries upon what your goals are, then you're going to earn their respect in the long run. Whereas, like, in the end, where they feel like, they're too good, she's too good for me. And because there's an attitude, right? When it's all courting,
it's all in how
and
you
oh my gosh,
it.
it's like dating, and oh my gosh, he rejected me. It's different than if you go up front and say, I'm really searching for this. I'm looking for I have a spot in my timeline for one client, and here's the type of client I'm looking for. You might be this client. If they're not that client, you have set those rules already up there. So there's no room for them to balk afterwards and go, oh man, she was a jerk about this. You're up front, right? So no one can go and blame you for still having that positive reach. But to then say, you know what, I have 2 friends who also provide this, and I'd like to help you, and I know that they're looking for or they deal with your type of business. So then if you give them a couple of referrals, then they're going to be all the happier.
And it just builds on what we were saying earlier about being authentic and how you communicate yourself. If someone says, well, surely you can handle this, your website says you do $1 million a year, and that's BS, then you've created your own bad scenario. So instead, though, we're a startup, we're a small company, we're a boutique, we specialize in companies of this size. Where people fail is they don't want to say we don't do companies that are worth more than $1 million a year, because they're afraid they're turning business away, but you're attracting that wrong business. So be very good in your marketing about talking about who you do business with, and try to head off some of those conversations. But if it does happen, just be honest and frank with them. It's a good question. And too many business owners have the opposite idea, that they want to attract everyone and never want to turn down business, and always want to look bigger than they are, more accomplished than they are. At the end of the day, you're going to have to get in a room and talk with a client, and if that works, if you're really slick and you talk your way through that, you have to execute. You have to deliver. You know, if someone asked Anthem for 10 million barrels of beer next week, they would have to say no, because that would be impossible. If they said yes, that would be bad for business. But too many people start a business and they say, I have a consulting firm and I can help your business go from $1 to $1 billion in 3 weeks, guaranteed, $19.95. Sign here. Number one, as you're all shaking your head, like, right? You're like, nobody's buying that, right? Don't do that because nobody's buying it. Number two, don't try to be sneaky with it. Don't try to trick people with your marketing and advertising, because you're going to attract someone who's going to have an expectation you can't fulfill. If you're honest and authentic in your marketing and advertising, if you're having a two-way conversation, if you're having relationships with the people who are potential business with you, you're going to attract the right people for the right reasons, who are much more likely to be someone in your wheelhouse, or someone that's enough in your wheelhouse you could take them to the right place. So it's kind of full circle to where we started, which is being authentic in your communication and trying to create relationships, as opposed to putting out false narrative advertising bluster about the greatest, biggest, best, no one's better, can't do it. You know, any of that action turns people off immediately, and then the people it attracts them for the wrong reasons. So if we do our good job properly from the beginning, explain who we are, what we do, what our position is, what's authentic to us, and how we do business, you really aren't very likely to have someone come in the door who's trying to work outside that scope. And if you do, say no. That's the key. Say no to business you shouldn't handle. That's our theme for this week. Our theme for this quarter, right? Okay. Any other questions before I wrap this up? Come on, James. Yes. Right.
Okay, I'm not necessarily going to match up with that person if I can't take care of it. Knowing who you can reach out to for those scenarios.
So very much know who you are, your capabilities, know your competition, and know your market or the audience that you sit within, so that you can, again, be attracting people who come to you for the right reasons, right? Say no to the stuff that you shouldn't do. And I'm going to end on this. This is the last piece. I love this little gem here, right? People who do what you do events, build websites, run credit unions, are in fashion merchandising, have stores, do retail, etc. Politics, maybe not politics. People who do what you do, who you would call your competitors, they're not the problem. Your competitors aren't taking business from you. Your competitors are forcing you to do what you do the best that you can do it, with the people you should be doing business with. The people who are automatically gravitating your competitor are just simply going there because that's how they do business. As long as your competitors obviously are being morally and ethically upfront. So someone's trying to undercut you ethically, tell some bad stuff about you, you can get mad about it. But if you're losing business to someone who does business similar to you, but it's not the way you do it, if you really look, if you're really honest with yourself, those clients that are over there, you don't even want. Now, you want the economics, but there's nothing about that client that you actually want or could retain. So don't worry about what audience or what money that your competitors are attracting and taking. Only worry about who you can attract and retain as your client. Use your competitors to make you better and more focused. The worst thing you can do is, well, it's working for them, so I'm going to do it too, because it's not authentic. You'll lose that battle every time. So go to battle with your armor that you own and possess, whether it's expertise, cost, speed of delivery, customer service, your experience, something that it's authentic to you, And don't worry that people are beating you in other ways that you can't control. Let it go. If you stay focused like that, you'll be fine. You will not go insane, and you'll actually make a lot more money. With that, I'm going to end it, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. Appreciate you so much. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And Heather for being on the panel with us. We do this every quarter, so we'll do this again in November. Since if you guys signed up on Eventbrite for tickets, you're going to get emails from us. So follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Go to the website. This video will be up next week. Go and try to find yourself, see the answers to your questions. And if you think of other questions, email us, tweet us, Facebook us. We'll answer them. I'm going to hang out tonight until everyone's questions are answered. I'm sure the girls will be hanging around. Let's get another beer from Anthem. Another round for Anthem beer. And of course, Wedge Pizzeria for the great snacks and appetizers over here. Thanks to Oklahoma Employees Credit Union. They're our sponsor for that.
Our pleasure.
I want to thank my team, Toby and Justin from Revolve Productions. Androma Holmes, this was his idea to begin with.
Yep.
And my girl Sarah, wherever Sarah floated off to. She's a kick-ass little videographer who's going to be making some cool videos of all this. So that's the 1219 crew. They make this possible for me to stand up here and sound like an expert.